I remember at this point I had already uh, got like a restraining order against him, so he wouldn't be able to come like towards my property. But he still was able to meet the kids at the daycare because we have children together. So he wasn't allowed on my property, but he still was allowed in a facility with the kids to pick them up from school, but at or visit them at daycare. But at this point, I can recall him consistently calling my phone, and when I answered, he was just like, the kids had to use the washroom, right? So he hadn't been in my house once. So he was saying the kids had to use the washroom. But I knew something was wrong because he was calling repeatedly. And I'm like, why is he trying to get me to rush back to the house? So I'm like, okay. So I went to the house. He was parked in the back. And as I got out the car, he got out the car, but the kids remained in the car. And I'm looking like, but they had to use the washroom. So he was like, no, I got to use the washroom. And I'm just like, so I said, if I can recall correctly, I said, what do you mean you have to use the washroom? You're not coming to my house or something like that. So, of course, his manipulative ways was just like, oh, I can't use the bathroom in your house. So I'm like, okay. So he still has some items there as far as like the things he purchased, TVs, etc. And so I'm like, okay, you can use the washroom. So he came in my apartment. The kids were still in the car. And I noticed that he had started to like unplug the TVs, and I noticed he had started to collect the items that he had purchased. So I went in the room, was packing the kids some clothes or was doing something, but at the same time I was paying attention to his actions. And once I peeked my head out of the room, I noticed that he was putting like the TVs and everything, whatever he was collecting, like by the back door. So at that point, I'm like, is he trying to trap me in his house? So he, once I saw that, he was in the front, I was in the room, but I looked towards the back door and I saw everything piling up by the back door. So I instantly ran out of the house. And he ran right behind me. Remind you, the kids are still in the car. So I ran to the alley and I kind of slipped, and he had a hammer standing over me. And only thing I can remember is my kids looking out of the back window, and I can hear them saying, "Mommy, mommy," or whatever, crying. At this point, they had to have been maybe about 5 and 6. So he was standing over me with the hammer and was saying something, but the only thing I remember is I was saying to him, just looking up at him, like, really, really, in front of my kids, really. So this is another part I share in the book that's kind of embarrassing, but so he started dragging me by my hair to up the stairs. Kids remind you, kids are still in the car. Started dragging me up the stairs or whatever. So I was able to retrieve the hammer out of his pocket as I was going up the stairs. And I wasn't going to hit him with it. I just, held it up at him like he held it at me. And I was like, now what if I hit you with it? At this point, I just wanted him to go. So our neighbors had came down and kind of separated us. And then then my children got out the car and they went upstairs to get the neighbor's phone. And I told them to call the police. So they were still crying. And when they called the police, he had left. So I remember having a conversation with my kids. And I told them, I said, that day, the same day on the porch, they were pointing out where I was bleeding at. They're like, mommy, you're bleeding. And I'm like, I know. And I just told them, It's like, and it's sad because I had to have this conversation with my kids about their own father. So I told them, and I was like, you know, I told them, and I was like, never allow a man to put their hands on you. Now, remind you, my kids are about 5 and 6, little girls. So at some point, you may have to have that conversation with your kid, but you don't want to have that conversation. You shouldn't have to have that conversation with a 5 and a 6-year-old.